Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my fellow YouTubers, Facebookians. I'm Aries. This is Aaron, and welcome to another edition of Living Simply and Fun. Like I said, I'm your host, Aries, and that's Aaron. So, well, go on.
Oh, sorry. I'm half dozing off here. It's been a long day. Anyways, we're going to be talking about older games versus newer games.
Or
Now,
classic games.
This is all very dependent on what game you are playing. For instance, I know that this video is being made for somebody who likes the Harvest Moon series. Now, when it comes to Harvest Moon, essentially playing one is like playing them all. As I was telling Rita, though, the Rune Factory games are much different because there's actually a plot and storyline behind them, and it plays out much differently than the original Harvest Moons. Yeah, you can go back to the black and white ones on the original Game Boy, or you can play some of the ones, what was it, SNES, the first ones that showed up?
I believe Harvest Moon for SNES, and then it was Game Boy, and then Game Boy Color, and then
I mean,
Game Boy
you can go
Advance,
back to the
GameCube.
old ones, but the newer ones actually, well, they haven't always worked out all the bugs. As I've been reading about a lot of them, there's some saving issues. There's some issues with the game freezing up. Too many things on the
manufactured
screen
them
and it
too
starts
fast.
getting slow. Natsumi's just cranking them out left and right. And honestly, if you find a good one from now, it's much better than getting a good one from the past.
Well, sometimes...
However, the past didn't have as many bugs in it, and it's still the same game, essentially. So,
Like this, for example, for GameCube, A Wonderful Life. There's no bugs in it. You can just load it up here, for example, pop it in your GameCube, play it, and you got no problem. Apparently you're in girl mode in this one. That's
of
cool.
course, the graphics change based on it, and some of them you're female only, some of them you're male only. So you want to look into the game itself and what you want out of the game. But, for instance, let's go with the Mario series. The Mario Galaxy games are much, much, much different than the original Super Mario Brothers. Heck, go with the original Mario Brothers on Atari. And you get a much different experience. The games are totally different. Of course, again, there's a big difference in the graphics, and if you can't stand 8-bit graphics, well, then don't go back to the old games.
Buddy,
Or
that
16-bit.
Atari was a 4-bit because
Well,
of
whatever.
monochrome.
Doesn't matter. And
The old Atari 2600, 5200,
and
7800.
it wasn't 4-color. It was not monochrome either.
Well,
I used
black
to
and
play
white.
Atari. No, it wasn't black and white either.
Well, the Mario Brothers was kind of...
No, it wasn't.
Well,
I
then it
owned
must have
it.
been my TV because it was originally for Ataris, Coleco, and Intellivision until they decided to bring it out for their own system.
Atari was in color, and it was at least 8-bit. I would figure it was 8-bit. So, you're going to have to look it up because you don't believe it wasn't black and white.
No,
I
I'm saying it
remember
wasn't
playing the
8-bit, it
original
was
Jaws
4-bit.
No, it had more color choices than that. Actually, that's not the number of colors anyways.
No.
4-bit and 8-bit. It was the number of pixels per inch.
It wasn't that. It was, it says right here by the superconductor. It's from 1980. That's the 2600. Let's see, 4-bit ROM, yada, yada, yada. Just continue talking. I'm in the camera.
So anyways, yeah, it makes a big difference. When it comes to sports games, which is kind of my forte, there's really not much reason to play the older games. Now, that's debatable. I mean, going back to the old bases loaded games, the characters are very badly drawn and characterized. The names are all false names. They aren't real players. Same with Baseball Stars, but I still enjoy playing Baseball Stars. Yet when you get into the newer games, again, like Triple Play, etc., or the MLB games, or MLB The Show games, or the 2K games, again, it all depends on the rosters, and heck, some people don't want to play with those older school rosters. I mean, some people just do not want Ricky Henderson on their team now. However, when it comes to MLB The Show, I'm the type of person who will make Ricky Henderson so that I can have my dream team and try to mimic the way he looks. In fact, recently I came up with a game that's all characters that I created based off of characters that I originally liked because, well, that's what I wanted. And unfortunately, the game doesn't have the widest variety of names it can pronounce, but it's better than some games like golf that can't pronounce your name. Tiger Woods is behind on the times because it has less stats it keeps, it has less activity, less action. It should be able to pronounce your name. Instead, they have nicknames the crowd gives you. And so, in some ways, I like the older school games because of that. Like, my shortstop's Alfredo Griffin, and my second baseman is Luis Vizcaino, and my catcher, I forgot who I had. Anyways, enough of that.
Okay.
I'm not going to bore you all with sports.
I'm not going to bore you with that either, but Aaron is right. It's 8-bit because it was 128-bit or 256. The way it did it was the color scheme. Now, the Game Boy original was 4-bit because it was basically black and white, whereas the Game Boy Advance or the Atari system was 8-bit.
So, modern day kids are not going to find much enjoyment from the old school baseball games or football games or whatever unless they're trying to learn about the players of the past, and they're not going to get a good grasp on that. But, not from that. In fact, it used to be the way I kept up with who's on what team, etc. was each year I'd get the brand new game. I don't do that anymore because I can't afford to anymore. I get games from 2 to 3 years ago to play now. Because the used games are like $4, $10, whereas the new game's $59 or $49, and so you got to think about all that. You're thinking Pong. Pong was all black and white. It just had sticks. It was like playing the worm game where you try not to run into your own tail, etc. Anyways. Then you go on to other games like old first-person shooters. People aren't going to have as much fun with Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley, even though they did have the light gun, which makes it a little better than, say, going into Call of Duty. You don't have a light gun. It'd be nice if Call of Duty had a light gun. There was Area 51 that did too. In fact, both are first-person shooters, but one's different, one's not. I don't think many of today's first-person shooters are going to want to go back and play games like Doom or Wolfenstein or Blood. They're stuck on Call of Duty and other games.
My opinion is this.
With the RPGs, the old RPGs,
I was going to say,
don't lose their value, frankly.
I was going to say I played Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein, and back in the day when it was 3D, the revolutionary thing, and I'll say this, it was really cool. People are like, oh yeah, you gotta do that. It's aliens. But nowadays, I look at these newer games where they're sitting there and it's like, Black Op down. Guy sitting there with a gun, he's like, oh yeah, woo! And it's like the kids are so engrossed in these realistic games that they think picking a gun up and plugging someone's cool. And that's where I think, back then, 9 years ago, Aaron and I used to play Halo and we'd be sitting there, this is just a game. Now they've made, we were playing that.
Some of the games are so realistic that it's beyond belief.
Yeah, we used to play the original Call of Duties and Battlefields, and it's like, this is cool. But now it's
actually, going back to the old Call of Duties, they frustrate me because they don't play out as well as the more modern shooters. The old Call of Duties and Medal of Honors, it's all choppy, and you're sitting there, and it's like, dang, movement slow. Dang, I couldn't get out of the way of that bullet, even though I was moving. Or I couldn't get to the cover fast enough, and I thought I could. You should be able to do these things, but there's so much lag in the game because it's not the fastest system, and there is a big difference. And in some ways, I'm looking at my shelf of PS2 games and looking at my PS3 and saying, there's not many of these games that I really want to go back and play besides like Dirt to Daytona, which is the only game of its genre where you actually get to go from the Dirt Cup leagues all the way up to the NASCAR league.
Exactly.
And it's actually probably the best NASCAR game I've ever played because usually the handling is crap in all the cars when you play real NASCAR. And I've had some of the NASCAR games. I'd go back and play Grand Theft Auto 3 and Gran Turismo 3 and 4, because 3 was my favorite, and 4 was good. Heck, I'll even go back and play
pickup truck racing.
I'll even go back to Gran Turismo 2 on the PlayStation
Excuse
because
me,
I loved it.
while we're talking about racing, I used to love Cruising USA and Cruising World. Those games were rocking, but nowadays, or Mario Karts, but nowadays you get these carts that's bad handling, and you got this wrong and that wrong, and then they tweak them out. I mean, heck, me and him were joking. Oh yeah, look at this is great, isn't it? And all of a sudden Aaron's sitting there and he's like, the other day he told me, Rita, Aries, polyphony is down the toilet. They just brought out Gran Turismo 5, and right afterwards 6 comes out for PS3. Not even 5 years apart.
And here's another thing too when it comes to that, like Mortal Kombat. And the fighting genre in particular.
Fight!
The newest Mortal Kombat game, which is just called Mortal Kombat or whatever for PS3. I thought, heck yeah, this is going to be great. New generation of Mortal Kombat with a higher graphics and better speed.
Fight!
Instead, the only thing they did was they limited the number of characters back from all the choices they had to some of the ones that I don't like. And they gave them cheesy dialogue and cheesy for the beginnings and endings. Like, they come out in every fight, they say the same thing, and it's annoying as all get out. And then they win the fight, and they say the same thing, which is annoying as all get out. And you're sitting there saying, this is irritating, frustrating, and pisses me off. But when it comes to Mortal Kombat Deception, Mortal Kombat Armageddon, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, Mortal Kombat, I can't remember the other one right now, but all of those were absolutely fantastic, and they actually played better. So the PS2 ones are better than the PS3 one, which is newer, and I won't play the DC Universe one.
I saw a review the other day talking about new games, since this is new versus old. I saw 4 reports online from 4 different sources, legitimate, by the way. Aaron's like, oh, better make sure they're legitimate. But it was on a game that you knew I was so stoked about when I told you about. It came out and it bombed. Might and Magic 10. Now, as you know, Might and Magic 1 through 8 was great. 6, 7, and 8 was awesome. And then they got, Dark Messiah, which wasn't bad, but then 10 came out. 10 bombed. It's like they stripped it. They made it slow. The system couldn't handle it. This couldn't be done. And then you sit there and you wonder, And then you got these idiots today. No offense. You've heard the same BS garbage probably. It stinks. There's a new Diablo add-on, but the PS3 guys don't get it. There'll be a way to do it. Trust me.
They'll end up having it as downloadable content. And it'll be like $39.
Or they'll sell the disc, and you'll have to figure out how to do it. I mean, look at they did the add-on for Bethesda's Elder Scrolls 4 when it came out. Before they put in the whole collection of, the add-on of Knights of the Nine, and then Shiver Isle and stuff. Remember?
Yeah, but what I was trying to say about RPGs too is some of the older ones are better. Like in my opinion, from the Elder Scrolls game, I actually preferred Morrowind slightly more than Oblivion. Actually, a lot more than Oblivion, but I like Skyrim better than both of them. So the newest is the best, with Morrowind being the second best, and Oblivion being the third best, and I never played the other two, which I'd like to play.
I do want to say that Aaron and I, this Friday, if you guys want, we can actually do some video footage for you, if you guys wish, here on our channel of Elder Scrolls Online. We've got the okay now. They want everyone to test it and post it on YouTube, but I just got to tell you, my opinion is, if they're going to go online only, the game's
I don't think I'm going to play the game much. I don't think I'll even buy it. Now, going back to the older versus new, Artone Lico series, we need to play the third one on PS3, which I really look forward to, but so far, out of the 3 in the game, I've only played the first and
You
second.
better back me up, Liner.
The first game was actually the best.
And you know what's really bad?
The second one was okay, but it changed some things, and the first one was still better.
I gotta say, my buddy who sells gaming music, I told him the music is addictive in those games.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'll be sitting here on the computer, I was like, damn it, Aaron, you gotta quit playing that game. Better back me up, Liner.
But there were aspects of the second one I really loved, like the IPD outbreak, and you actually have to go and fight some of the IPDs and capture them, and then you have to get them over their IPD basically with psychology. And so it's kind of a really cool game in that aspect because you collect all these, I forgot the term for them, Ravatails.
Ravatails.
And the Ravatails sing, and they can use magic through their singing. So you end up having a Ravatail in your party, but the IPDs are Ravatails that's lost control and have gained too much power and are actually dangerous to people. So you end up getting these IPDs, and when you cure them, they join your party basically as a group. And if you got 100 of them, they like increase the power of your own song by singing together with you. And so it's amazing in that concept. But at the same time, they've put in a timing mechanism that really sucks. Let's see. With the Final Fantasy games,
I'm an expert in those.
You can never go wrong with the first one through the fifth one. The sixth one, seventh one.
8 was kind of
8 and 9 are the iffy ones. 10, 10, 2, 11. Well, 11's online.
11 was online, but for all of you out there wondering, you can get 11 dirt cheap because they've disabled their servers and reused them for 14.
Yes, which means you can't play the game anymore. Ha! Because it's online only, and if the servers are down for it, that means the game's trash.
Yeah, recycled the servers, if you just heard my words.
Yes, they're now used for 14. So why even bother buying 11?
They did a Square Enix, remember? What you were complaining about? Square Enix owns EA, and EA recycled the thing, it's in the game.
When it comes to RPGs, it doesn't matter if it's 8-bit or whether it's our more modern Blu-ray technology. The game is going to play out like an RPG for the most part. Well, of course, unless it's a Atelier Iris game where you got the guy who comes out, barrel! Every 5 seconds you go to search a barrel. He's like, barrel, barrel, barrel! And you just want to shoot him. So
I haven't tried it, but I want to get the series because he keeps saying it's, once we get past it.
Well, I had the first one. But this after that, I suppose they actually got better from what I understand. Then you've got the Bard's Tales game, which was absolutely great. Then we got the Dark Alliance games that we were talking about. Dark Alliance 1, Dark Alliance 2 were great. Dark Alliance 3, which was called Demon Stone and actually played out as an action-adventure.
Your god is down!
That's the closest to the third installment there actually was, but they changed it.
They also fused
3 never came
Icewind
out.
Dale in it because your god
actually,
is
he appeared
down.
in all the games. He's been in every Baldur's Gate
He's been
game.
in Icewind Dale.
He was in Icewind Dale, too.
And he's using Icy Death.
I don't know
and
if he
Twinkle.
was in the PC version of Baldur's Gate, but anyways, we're talking about a character named Dritzdro Urban.
Your god
Demon
is
Stone
down.
was much different. That was more like a side-scrolling action-adventure beat-em-up like Final Fight was, which, by the way, Final Fight was a great game. Tough Enough was a great game. There's really no game on the market right now that can compete to either of those. Maybe Mortal Kombat with its conquest mode would be the closest, but it's still not a side-scroll beat-em-up where you got enemies that show up like Double Dragon did. So, and Final Fight was better than Double Dragon. So, you really got to look at the game you want, what games there are in the genre, and maybe do reviews and sit there and say, was this a good game? Did this have the classical appeal? I mean, Double Dragon's got far more better reviews than Final Fight does, but Final Fight's a better game.
Final Fight was better, but Double Dragon was the original. And next to Streets of Rage.
MLB 2004 was probably my favorite baseball game until MLB The Show 11, which I haven't played any since then. So, again, MLB 04 didn't have the great accolades, and All-Star Baseball 03, which I really loved, didn't have the great accolades that other games had, like Triple Play 2003 or MLB 2K3, which, you know, I didn't like those games. So it all depends on personal taste, and what you really need to do is say, this is the genre I want, is action adventure. Here are the games that most interest me in action adventure. And then you need to go and review them and find out, does this have any quirks to it? Like, I was doing reviews of Harvest Moon, and there's 2 island games on DS. One of them it's buggy. You can't make it through the first year without losing your entire save. And then you got to restart. And it's likely to do it again. There was another one of those too, but Harvest Moon Cute actually looked like it was decent, but it was a little pricey. Rune Factory is by far the best Harvest Moon game I've ever played. It kept me involved. I loved it. I couldn't put it down at times. And Harvest Moon games rarely keep me attracted to them. I sit there and say, oh, same thing. Harvest my crops, water my crops, plow my field, chop up this wood. Oh, I don't have enough. Where am I going to get more? But with a Rune Factory, you actually go delving into caves, and there's all sorts of fields inside the caves where you can grow more crops than what you can on your land, and the caves have constant temperatures in them. You can walk on every single square of the crops, so you don't have that little one in the middle when the cucumbers are growing big enough.
Sorry, I was doing stuff.
And you try to water the cucumber, but you can't get the middle one, and then it rots and dies.
This one here is a remake of the PS1 version called Save the Home or Back to Nature, and there is the girl version called More Friends in Mineral Town.
This is the original game that I played, and I actually enjoyed it because one of my favorite things is actually going into the caves and mining.
And just to let you know,
and this was the first game that actually came out with the mining, from my understanding.
No, it was actually in the PS1 version. This is the remake of it.
I thought Friends of Mineral Town and More Friends.
Remember Back to Nature?
See, I thought the PS1 one actually. No, it didn't connect. That was one of the GameCube ones that connected.
Yeah, it was this one. It was
that one right there in your
this
hands,
one?
I believe. The other one was Magical Melody.
Connects Harvest Moon, More Friends, or More Friends of Mineral Town, or Friends of Mineral Town.
Yeah.
This one.
And then you can go to another city, or whatever. And I actually enjoyed that, but I hated the GameCube version. I could not stand the GameCube version of Harvest Moon.
Wonderful Life?
No,
Well, because we have this same game for a Wonderful Life Special Edition.
Yes, this was PS2. Which I'll have to try that sometime. But I couldn't stand the characters in them. The townsfolk irritated me. And that's another problem I have with the Harvest Moon games, is the townsfolk tend to say the same thing until you've hit a certain point, and then they'll say something different, but you need to get their liking you up high enough, and so you got to talk to them every day, even if they say the same junk every day. And so it gets kind of tedious and stuff, but Rune Factory kept me going. So, if you have not played the first Rune Factory game, I highly recommend it. The second one, the third one are just so-so. Even the fourth one sounds so-so.
Before we get into something, I got a couple of games I want to share for Game Boy, some of my favorites. As Aaron said, Final Fantasy 1 plus 2, also known as Dawn of Souls. It was remade for PS1 before this.
And that's a great little handheld. Unfortunately, with the fact that the DS no longer carries the GBA slot in it,
you have to buy it for $150.
You have to have an old GBA, or you have to get one of those
DS Lite.
A DS Lite. And however, that's still a great companion. But guess what? They've remade Final Fantasy 1 and 2 for PSP. And they remade it for DS, didn't they?
Yeah, no, DS never got it.
DS never got 1 and 2. I know they got 3 and 4.
DS
and I love 3.
Anyways,
I gotta get back into 3.
Let me tell you. Angela one time was asking me about these. As Aaron knows, I play these all the time still.
Breath of Fire.
The Super NES
and
version
Breath of Fire
out.
too. Rita actually plays these several times a year.
I would like to tell you guys, since
she has this cool little device, which she keeps promising me she's going to get. Don't bother trying to pick it up and bring it here. But it's a little adapter that connects to the base of the GameCube. We could never get it off.
No.
Oh.
You could do this.
Yes. See, this little device down here, if you can actually see it, there's Breath of Fire. As I said, she plays it. Here's the GBA slot right there. And that just goes right in there, and you can play your GBA on your GameCube on your TV. So, and she promised to get me one of those, and they're not very expensive. I don't know why she hasn't yet.
Because to buy the outright, you have to pay $50.
Oh, it's the disc problem.
Yes.
Yes, it does have a special disc, and unfortunately, she could get the part for $15, but the disc is like $75. That's why you haven't done it.
Yes.
They don't come together anymore?
No.
That sucks.
Unless you want to see a guy double charge, I'll have fun with that.
You'll have to look again and see if something's popped up on whatever. Sometimes with the older games, you got to be cautious if it's a series too. Like the Dot Hack series, I'm still wanting Quarantine in the worst way because it's a 4-part game. And I have the first 3 parts, but I'm missing Quarantine because it's almost $200. So sometimes you got to be careful with things like that too.
A lot of people used to call the Game Boy Advance the portable Super NES. The original Zelda 3, Link to the Past, was also put on Game Boy Advance. Now I want to tell you guys something too that me and Aaron needs to talk about. What's that? Oh, you didn't get something?
See, now, even though this is Final Fantasy Legend, which is probably worth getting, I personally would not go back to the original Game Boy games. I don't know. Black and white does not appeal to me. I don't feel like playing Mortal Kombat
Excuse me, I do want to say, this game was a classic on Super Mario Land for Game Boy.
Yes. You can't even see it there. I might have to take it out of here. I don't know. It's not important. It's Super Mario Land anyways. But yeah, some of these games, there's Contra. There's just not much need to go back and play the old black and white. I mean, if you're talking about Pokemon, you might want to as a collector. But what's the point of going back and getting a game that they actually make that still plays almost the same as it did then?
I beg to differ. There's one thing I need to let you know for you gamers out there watching. It's Pokemon for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS are $200 to $300, new or used, just for it.
But what I'm trying to say is, and you have them unopened, by the way, but what I'm trying to say though is that when it comes to the like Pokemon Yellow, Blue, Red, I think there was Red, right? I know there was
red,
Yellow and Blue.
And yellow.
Gold, Silver, Crystal. It's still the same thing. You get Pokeballs, you throw them at Pokemon, you capture the Pokemon, you build yourself a team, you try to build your team up strong enough to take on the Elite Four. You end up beating the Elite Four. You help out the professor by filling the book. Yeah, and you still get the same thing in Pokemon White and Black or Pokemon Pearl, Diamond, and Platinum. And the graphics are much better. The sound quality is much better. The music is almost the same. So, do you really need to go back and spend $200 to get Pokemon Yellow, Blue, or Red, or Silver, Crystal, Gold? No, you don't need to. You don't need to even go back to Leaf Green, Fire Red. The batteries, they're hard to get a hold of.
There's one place
there
in
is
America,
a place that sells them.
$10.
They will replace the battery for you if you send it to them. They can send it the battery to you, and you can replace it yourself.
If you know what you're doing with soldering tools,
But
otherwise you send it to them and they'll do it for you.
Stick with your DS games when it comes to
now with these, of course, I
unless
just want to
you
say,
have one of those fancy devices.
Anyways,
then you do everything you can to preserve.
Yes. Anyways, this game when I got it was with Aaron came to there.
I remember it was like the first 3 days that we were in town, and you demanded to go, and your mom finally decided to take you, and you had it pre-ordered, and
that game is the best game on it. I got 5 and 6 when I lived
And when
down
you got
here.
that, you promised to get that for me too. Never did. I'm not going to rub it in.
4 is on DS right now.
You do so much for me that it doesn't matter.
4 is on DS. Now, some of the games I wanted to talk to you about that I had to cut out of my lists, that's why I pulled this little list out, was... Now, Arc the Lad, I've done a lot of research. That's cool. Bionic Commando is great. Blades of Steel is great. As you know, Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire 6 I have a beef with because it's for cell phones. I cut out the Brother in Arms
and
series.
Breath of Fire 5 because it was a piece of crap.
Breath of Fire 5 right here. Dragon Force.
Dragon Quarter. It was horrible. It's rated as one of the worst RPGs of all time. From a series that is considered in the top 25 of RPGs.
No one can complete the game. Not even the creator of it could.
They screwed this game up so bad that it is unplayable. And it actually looks really cool for the most part.
I'm trying. Me and Aaron are trying to work together to finish Breath of Fire 3 that I've never beat. I'm still working on it. Remember that. It's in the PS1 here. Which, for some of you talking about cool screens, check this little guy out.
Yeah, other cute little gadgets that Rita's got.
This screen here I got for $20. It was the last
got
one
another
Fred
one.
Myers.
She got 2 of them and one broke within like a month.
The screen failed after a year. So I found out the second one at Fred Myers that was available. I also got the nifty little car carrier plug. My mom would drive her car and I'd be playing the game right there. You know, very careful, of course. But I had the plug. And the plug was more money than the screen, by the way. But anyways, for example, I got rid of all my first-person shooters. I decided to go with RPGs on my list for one reason. And Aaron knows this because, Aaron, would you like to take this note away or shall I?
Go ahead.
Aaron got me into a thing. I have played, in my life, over 500 games.
Yes.
Over 500?
We were on a site called How Long to Beat, and actually you came close to 1,000 games. So did I. We were in competition for like the top 25 people on the site for a number of games.
My adopted daughter's pissed off at me still.
It's sad. And the number of games we've beaten is close to 500. So, there you go.
Anyways, the reason I want to talk about some of these games are simple. Some of you out there are thinking, oh, this list is great. This is old price list, by the way. I got to update it.
Yeah,
but,
very old.
Hold on. These are the game series I wanted. For example, and I want to give you some examples of why. I used to be into Brother in Arms, but after doing research, reviews, why am I going to be playing a game where you pick up a gun and you go and plug people?
Yeah, Call of Duty, same thing.
Yeah, Castlevania got tedious and boring
or
in my opinion.
Counter-Strike.
Yeah, exactly. So
even Contra lost its feel. It became more of a Call of Duty game than it was.
The original
jump
Contra
around
was,
and
the
spin
original
in the
Contra
air
was great.
Fire a flame gun or whatever superficial weapons.
Now I saw I saw one called Dark Cloud from him.
Yes, I love Dark Cloud. For our friend A, knowing that she likes Harvest Moon,
you can call her by her
Angela. I know that you will love the Dark Cloud games. The first one you could probably get for about $20. It was the greatest hit.
PS2.
And the premise of it basically is it's a celebration and you're going to meet this girl or whatever. And then this dark genie comes and wipes everything out and you're one of the few people left. And the whole world's basically gone. And you have to go through dungeons and get these spheres to collect parts and rebuild the towns. And you have to rebuild them just right. Now, I want Dark Cloud 2 because it was even more advanced. You had to go back to the past or to the future to rebuild it, and based on what you do in the past shows in the future whether you built it right or not. And the whole idea is to go and beat the Dark Genie. And so the Dark Cloud 2 is a game I gotta get, and I'm so afraid of just dumping $50 into one game, even though I love the game. And you get a plethora of characters, plethora of cities that you got to rebuild. I think there's 6 cities, 6 characters, and then you go for the Dark Genie. And each character has its own different ability. You can only have one at a time, and you switch them. And I love the fields because you go into this cave, and it's not just running around the cave and killing things, etc. in an RPG. You go around, and it's all live action, so you get the enemies that charge at you and stuff.
I just want to say to you, since he was talking to A, she just emailed, so I just want to say, hi, Angela. I know you're going to watch this tonight. So another one is, I got tired.
Yeah, I guess we can move on from that.
Anyways, what I wanted to say is first-person shooters, I used to want them all, but you know what happened? When you look at all these dang people playing these first-person shooters and talking about how many frag kills and everything else, you make your mind feel like you're losing it. Then you say, oh, well, the online capability is great, but they removed it because of that. And then you do a video review or you watch something or you do some research, hold on, like he taught me to do. Turns out oh yeah, me and Eric could go and play this game. We can pay $30 for it, but we only get 6 hours total on it. Total.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of games on my list like that, like Lollipop Chainsaw. It seems like an interesting zombie killer, and it's supposedly got 6 hours of gameplay, but it's got some replay value apparently. I am curious to play that because it's kind of become a bit of a cult classic too. But what I was going to say about the Call of Duty series, etc., is I got a friend, and I talk to him on the phone, and the entire time I'm on the phone with him, except for when he's outside having a joint, because he doesn't smoke cigarettes anymore, and he's been a pothead his whole life, and he's on medical. Anyways, I sit there talking to him on the phone, and the entire time I'm hearing in the background pop, 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 pop. It's like air pop popcorn in the background. And half the time he's sitting there listening to the people chatting in the game, and I'm sitting there like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Hey, I was talking to you. What? Yeah, my team sucks today. I got first place, but the rest of my team just sucked and we lost. I got first overall, though. Yeah, okay, that's great. Wonderful. Now, back to what I was talking about. What were you talking about? Yeah, so that's how the conversation goes. Every time I talk to him. 4 hours of listening to him play that game. He plays it all day. He's like number one, was like in the top 10 on the world leaderboards for one of the games. I think it was Call of Duty World at War. He was in the top 10 worldwide.
Anyways, I'll just tell you guys about it since I can't find him. And me and Aaron's been playing off and on when we're not doing movies, and I'm not doing little bit of projects here and there. We're playing...
Second one under Dragon Quarter. It's right above Endgame, I believe.
No, this is the Fifth Element.
Oh. Okay.
Anyways, I'll just tell it anyway.
Oh, there it is. No, that's the Xbox version. It's next to SimCity 2000.
Anyways, the game's called Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. But anyways, the game... yeah.
This is the Xbox version, but... And I stay away from Xbox because our Xbox systems totally died, both on the exact same day at almost the exact same minute. Go figure for that. And then my Xbox 360 took a dump in 3 months.
Anyways,
so I will not buy a Microsoft product again, even though I was absolutely a huge fan of Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball, not because of the girls, but because it's the only volleyball game that actually played well for a volleyball game. And I love sports.
The reason I chose role-playing games is when he taught me this website. You can go on this website and see how long it takes to beat.
Yes, it's called How Long to Beat.
And when you go through it, there's games in there. It's like, one guy said he was playing Gradius, the original Gradius, 32 minutes. It took me like 9 hours to beat it. I could beat the original Contra in about 42 minutes now. Problem is, you get these jack wagons. It's like, oh, I can do, you know.
Well, it also depends on that site whether you've completed it 100%, meaning beat it on all difficulty levels.
Like me and him.
Acquired every single object, which I still have been unable to do in the Uncharted series.
I talked to someone the other day who basically sits there and he says, unless you are 100% using one character in Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, you can never get to level 41. I'm already halfway there after 8-9 years of playing.
You're only 1/5 of the way there, dear. Oh. 1/5. But, heck, that's still a lot better than nothing.
Well, whatever it was.
I keep changing characters, so none of mine are even like 1/100th close to being...
And I just use one character, and...
I mean, altogether, they're 1/5 the way to the next level, but... Because we always play together, so I know where my level would be. It's where hers is if I was on only
Anyways, my point is I chose role-playing games because they are long, and I could relax to them, and, you know...
And the old ones are just as good as the new ones.
Yeah, but like someone said the other day, my friend, Sophia, she says, oh, the PlayStation 4 rocks! There's not enough games for it.
Yeah, and... As I was talking about sports games, you look at the older sports games, it's like number 17, number 14, number 22, or the first baseman, the catcher, the second baseman. They have names, but the commentators can't speak the names. However, the newer ones, particularly the hockey games, you play that, and the commentators can pronounce every name, no matter how tongue-twisted it is.
There's Pooflinger O'Malley.
Well, no, there's not. But when you're trying to set up a new character, like my last name's Whitehouse, and in none of the games can it pronounce the name Whitehouse. It is just not in their vocabulary. Now, white is and house is, but I can't put the two together. So maybe one day they'll have even a better setup in the future on name pronunciation. Heck, I remember back in the mid-90s, they started getting better with name pronunciation, but you could create a character named Brown, and there could be 50 Browns in the game, and they say Brown every time, but your character, they come up and it's like number 23. And it's like, oh, wonderful, you know. So, yeah, there's advantages, particularly in the sports games, for buying newer.
All I want to say is, with me, I chose role-playing games out of them all, and because I like the longevity. I'd like to sit down with Aaron, plunk down, and be like, hey, dude, this game I've heard takes 400 hours. And then we sit there, and he's like, yeah, right. And all of a sudden, Skyrim, we've put in 900 hours.
Yep.
And then it's like, new character time. Oh, yeah.
But, you know,
so I think they'll make an add-on. Nope, they're going to screw around and blow up this game series.
To me, sports games are the same because baseball's 1 hour per game roughly, and there's 182 games in a year. So you play all 182 games, and now you still got the playoffs to go. You're almost 200 games by the end of the season, and that's 200 hours right there. You play 30 seasons, and you're, you know, and the
time for a new game.
Basketball is about 20 minutes, well, half an hour per game. 82 games per season, about 100 overall for a season. So you're again sitting almost at.
I've seen him play. I used to get him. I got him a couple Madden games, and he went through and he did like 6 seasons. Finally, he's like, "This is boring. I need a new football game, or I want to change it." And that was his action. He was like, his face was, "I need a new football game. Otherwise, I need to change the sport. Maybe hockey or tennis."
I got to change out the sports now. And on top of that, I love the numbers. You know, when it comes to something like boxing, I want to be like one of the greats and actually have one of the all-time records for most fights won, most knockouts.
Well, the other day I said I'm going to get us
However,
a new
it's very hard to beat Roberto Duran because he had 172 fights. So you go figure that each fight takes 10 to 15 minutes to do 172 fights. And all the training involved, which it's a lot of time.
And then you got him, and he says stuff, you know, when it comes to games, you know, it's just, you know. And another thing is, if you have the systems, like me and him, we keep our PlayStations and our systems cleaned, running. If something gets wrong, heck, I talked to him the other day. I said, buddy, why don't we go suss up some refurbed Xboxes?
The only reason I do it is for Morrowind.
However...
And Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball.
Yeah, well, anyway.
So there are 2 games, well, and Halo. So there's and Forza.
Halo,
so there's
one's in the closet for computer.
And
Halo 2.
And Fable. So there's 5 games at least.
Fable for the PC.
There's 5 games at least that I would get a refurbished Xbox for.
Fable
the original Xbox.
I did, and he was like... at the time.
Actually, I still want an original Xbox because there are a couple games on there that you can't.
He was really pissed because I think his Bob Marley collection was on his hard drive.
I had every single Bob Marley song ever on recording on my Xbox. And some of those are very difficult to find because some of them are show recordings that are not in print. Anyways, there's the one other thing I was going to say. Yes, the Xbox 360, I'd kind of like to get one again for 2 games that I was playing there. Cameo, which I absolutely loved, and Bullet Witch, which are on no other systems and probably will never be on any other systems.
Bullet Witch apparently was going to bring out a second version, but it went down the toilet when Atari dumped it, so no one knows what the hell's going to happen.
And now I'm thinking I might have to eventually get an Xbox One. However, I gotta get Mirror's Edge first because Mirror's Edge 2 is apparently, although EA, only going to come out on the Xbox One because Xbox is the only one that sat there and basically said there's all these restrictions to owning a game. You don't actually own it. You basically rent it until we decide otherwise.
Last time I checked with Mirror's Edge, about 4 months ago, the second one is going to be PS4 too.
No. Actually, look at the Wikipedia for games and announced dates. You will find Mirror's Edge on the Xbox One, but it is not on the PS4 list. Just look at all games You can check there. That would probably work. But I was looking at all games on Xbox One and then all games on, there's the official site. That would probably tell you. Oh, Mirror's Edge, Wikipedia.
Interesting. They put it on iPad and iPad.
I mean, I've always wanted the Mirror's Edge game.
See, second game is just keep talking.
I don't know what to say right now.
A version of Mirror's Edge for iPhone and iPod Touch came out in 2009.
In February 20. Oh no, it's back on.
Mirror's Edge will be June release for Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One.
So then I don't need an Xbox One. Forget that, Bill Gates. I still might buy an original Xbox and an Xbox 360 just for those two games though. So
Xbox 360 for
just for Bullet Witch and Cameo.
Mm.
I mean, Bullet Witch was probably my favorite all-time zombie killer at this point. The witch Alicia and her machine gun broom that changes into various different weapons, and she goes blasting zombies with it, and her antics are just hilarious in my opinion. I miss that game. So.
Another one that I really wanted to get in with the 360 offense was Blue Dragon.
Yes, I had that Blue Dragon, Assassin's Creed, and Fear. I got all three of those.
You had Fear?
Yes. I had all three of those just before my Xbox.
I didn't know you had Fear
I never got to play them, yes.
Fear was a first-person shooter.
Yes. So I had all three of those. Oh, and we never got into Halo 3 either. And
that was my game.
We want to play
he bought it because I got the little helmet thing sitting somewhere.
Yeah, it's in my place.
Yeah,
You've always left it with me.
I knew you were going to see. Now they just brought out Halo 4.
Yes, and of course, we never got to play those because my system took a dump right after Christmas, and I got those on Christmas Day. I think it was... Christmas is the 25th. I got the games the 25th. My system died the 29th, and I got it in August.
I remember him sitting there and crying at me one night, and I'm like, what do you want? My old apartment. He goes and grabs some boots, and he goes, my 360 blew up. I'm like, oh, how crappy is that?
Yeah, it was absolutely horrible. And right after Christmas, and she went out of her way and actually got me like six games for it, all brand new. And I was so excited about it, but we played Oblivion anyways, because that's what we were on, and the system just died.
I called, and they said, oh, you overuse it, we're not covering you, clunk. Yeah. And then after that, Aaron called and was like, oh, you overuse it, we're not helping you, clunk. And then Aaron says, F you.
And then I found out from the local area it was going to cost me $180 to repair it. And if I wanted to send it into Xbox, it was going to cost me about $180 and then shipping on top of it at that time.
And then Aaron's like,
if I wanted to buy a new one, it'd be like $399, even for the basic jobby. Later, it became cheaper, but I just said, you know what, I haven't had one in like 2 years. Why am I going to bother with it? I'm going to get a PS3 now. And you know what, I've been happy with the PS3. I've had my PS3 since November-ish.
Oh, and I just wanted to tell you guys something. Fine. Yeah, like mine I've had for over 2 years, two and a half years. Let me tell you a story, too, before we log off. When my TV died in August, I went to him and I said, Aaron, or he actually know what happened was he came to me and says, your TV's acting. I said, don't tell me this. So finally we unhooked it. We did everything. He even disassembled it, cleaned it, put it back together. He didn't get it electrocuted or nothing. Still, same problems. Finally, he calls up, how much to repair it? About $3,000. We're talking a 300-pound, 36-inch. We went, and the guy says, get a DLP, high-definition DLP LCD. We found one. Good deal. Put it on layaway. Do I have any problem?
Actually, we did have a problem. We thought it was a problem. When we were playing video games, that there was no noise. It'd start buzzing really loud and getting louder and louder and louder until there was a noise, and it'd just drive you insane. Found out, though, it's not the TV. It's actually a loose cable in the back of her DVD player. Because it's only got one input set. So we have to use the DVD player as a second input set. Because she wants her DVDs too. And it's got two input sets. And so it starts buzzing. So we got
the PS3 and the Xbox. Or the GameCube.
I found it by mistake because I'm sitting there and it's buzzing. And I'm watching the screen flicker as it's buzzing. And I'm realizing, wait, this reminds me of my Atari flickering and buzzing. And I just played with the wires in the back, and eventually it just went tink.
Anyways,
and it was
the
all
story
quiet and
is
bright.
the guy told us if we got an LCD with the right connections and we did it properly, we can run our Super NES, which I keep in mint condition, my NES, which has been cleaned and fully regulated for that. And by the way, for some of you out there, we talked about the Atari systems, we've talked about the Intellivisions, we've talked about the ColecoVisions. Well, anyways, I did a thing the other day, this morning, I want to tell Aaron about, because Miss Angela, I'm her pen pal, as you know, and she asked about, and let me see, just to share with you, Miss Angela, I believe this is yours. I'm on page 20 of your letter. Now,
Incoming message.
that would be her now. Anyways, I bet. But anyways, we were talking about games. She was talking about portables. Well, I decided, just out of curiosity, to write down from the tip of my tongue, and I got it smack dab completely right. There is 18 portable systems.
Ah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to get something to drink my throat.
So, anywho, that is what I wanted to share with you all right there. So, I got the game system.
Ben, thank you.
Thank you for all of you following with us on Classic Games. Just remember, if you got some questions or concerns, please post comments and suggestions. Private email message us. Please add and subscribe. Please post comments. Please subscribe. Sorry for the long one, because it's one of our favorite hobbies. Look for another video series set next week. And throughout the week, if Mr. Aaron gets the Orvis books finished, we will do the books that we have available on Orvis on their fly fishing. Thank you, and may God bless the world.